I'm pretty hyped for this. I'm pretty hyped for this interview. It's been a long time coming. I've been following you since the early playtest for the longsword, and I am very excited to meet the original longsworder, the OG.
Hell yeah.
So I usually open this interview with, in case people just watch this one specifically. So basically what I'm doing is there's this company called NaNoWriMo, and I don't know if they're a nonprofit or whatever, but they have a challenge to try to write a book, or at least a first draft for a 50,000 word novel in the month of November. I've interviewed enough people that this is ballooned. It's going to take way longer than that. I have so many interesting characters to write out, but that originally was my goal. So to take all these different characters that were like inspired by real people and write them to like a fantasy novel based on the lore of Dark and Darker, what little there is, into like more of a cohesive narrative, and just have something a little bit interesting while we wait for some content.
It's a sweet idea. I like it.
Yeah. All right, let's get into some of the questions. So like in the early days with Dark and Darker for the playtest, how did you find out about the game, and like which playtest did you hop into?
So I had a buddy. Well, I had two buddies that played it with me consistently up until about February, and they both quit this past February.
Okay.
We played during playtest 1. My friend Ridio found the game. He's like, hey, we got to try this. It's free. It looks janky. It looks really fun. It looks up our alley because it was PvPvE, and a hardcore, looter. So we hopped on it. We played 2 days, I think, of playtest 1 and fell in love with the game. I played Ranger, right?
Oh, really?
At the time. Like, literally what I do in every RPG game that I've ever played, I play a bow character, a ranger character, and if they can have dual swords, I run dual swords, and if they have a single one-hand sword, I run a single one-hand sword. My two favorite fantasy characters, Aragorn and then Drizzt from Forgotten Realms, right? So it just fits into those two all the time. So we started playtest 1, fell in love with the game, played the bejesus out of the game playtest 2, right? And then playtest 3 rolls around, and I'm just fooling around by myself, trying to understand what the longsword parry thing is, because I saw it in a random Steam discussion while I was trying to figure out, hey, what are the different weapons? What are people liking?
Interesting.
And then I accidentally did the parry thing without even realizing what it was. And I was like, oh my God, it has a 2-part attack? And then I made a little YouTube video just to like, hey, I don't know if y'all know how to do this, because no one on any of the Reddit, no one on Reddit knew, no one on the Steam discussion, no one in the Discord could tell me anything. So I just made a small little video, and from there it was like, well, I guess I'm just going to try and roll with it, I guess. Whatever. Let's make some videos about blocking with the different blocking weapons in the game, and then it just was like, oh, man, the longsword is so much fun. And I was locked in, because you could just run weapon mastery and have a longbow. So I was like playing Ranger, in a way, but with a longsword, which was way up my alley. So I just went with it, and in the playtest, it was just wildly fun with longsword while everyone else was still learning the game and stuff, and being able to flex the skill expression of the weapon at the time. I mean, obviously you can still play with the weapon pretty crazy, but there's a lot more to playing with it well now. Well, so many people know the weapon so well, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You have like the second generation of longsworders that like saw your content, and then kind of came up like when the game came up on Steam, right? And then they started making content, and I think the knowledge base for how to fight the longsword or how to use it has just gone up. Like, it's so much easier now, right? You have so many different people showing you how to like actually use the weapon. Because like in the early days, it was really hard to find content, right, on just like how the game worked, because people just didn't figure it out,
Yeah, actually, absolutely right. Right, that's why I went into like a lot of my YouTube channel is like being an instructor, more or less. I think 80% of my subscribers on YouTube are from the tutorial videos more than anything. So.
Oh wow, that was a hot minute ago.
Yeah, dude. So they've been, the channel's floating along at a bob and above, water level, but it's all right. But no, and that's something I like doing though, because like I'm going back to school right now. I'm going to get a degree so I can open a tutoring center.
Really?
So I love teaching. I've coached hockey, I've coached baseball, stuff like that. So
you mind me asking what you're getting your degree in?
Just an English major, just basic. I'm going to get English major. I'm probably going to minor in probably a language. I'm learning Mandarin with my wife right now.
Really?
So, because she's Chinese and she knows Cantonese.
I've
She wants
heard
to learn Mandarin, so we're kind of learning it together. You know what I mean?
that's interesting. I tried learning Chinese a little bit, and as like the first language, I would not recommend that. That is,
It's hard, dude.
it is. So I've heard Cantonese
It's
has like
hard.
9 different tones, as opposed to Mandarin has four, right?
The tones in Cantonese are wild, man. Like I'll say something and she'll just be like, "That is so wrong," and then I'll try and like make fun of her in a goofy way, being a smartass, and she'll be like, "You said it so well that time." I'm like, "I'm being a clown. What do you mean I said it so well?
That's
Seriously?
actually so funny.
That's how I have to do the tone? Are you kidding me?"
So I have a best friend. I don't know if I want to share this story. You know, it's kind of a funny story, but like my best friend from college, we were in this database class because you know I went for computer science, and
Okay.
you know this sounds a little bit bad, but it's a funny story. And you know I wanted to hang with a smart kid, right? There's this one Asian guy in class, so I watched like all of Dragon Ball Z to become his friend, right? And you know he was a really interesting kind of guy. So like a year or two later, we started learning. He already knew Chinese, obviously, and stuff like that.
Right.
But I knew I was in trouble when we were up at 4 in the morning. Before this really hard test, his teacher was difficult. And
Brutal.
he was asking me questions. I was like, man, that's not how I imagined this would work. But yeah, the whole thing with Mandarin, it's super interesting that you're bringing that up because like the four tones, like if you don't practice them like pretty much every day, then you lose it, right? Because it's like
Right.
I also memorizing those words, like the word ma, for instance, right? There's up, down, neutral tone. That could mean depending on which tone for the word ma, that can be like horse, mother, or like, I think it's question mark at the end, right? Is the other?
Yeah.
I don't remember the other ones now, but it's like, that's a little off topic, but yeah, it's kind of cool. Like one thing that helped me with the language learning that might help you, but you can anchor memories into your brain for certain words by associating a story with it. So, like, I don't know if you've seen Dragon Ball or whatever, but there's this character called Majin Buu, right?
Yep.
And he's a bad guy, right? So the word boo, just like neutral tones is the word bad, right? So like he's a bad guy, right? So like boo. I'm not gonna do the tones. It's been so long. And like the word hall, right, is I think it's an inverter for. It's like the word not, more or less, right? So like how I memorized that was like an Indian guy putting his hand up saying hall, like Native American, right? So like the
Right.
words
It's a good one.
buhal is like not good, right? I think I probably got that entirely wrong. It's been a couple years since I've tried that, but
Right.
doing memory anchors like that, it's really slow to do that. But I still remember the ones that I did like that.
Yeah, but it's effective.
It
Yeah.
is. It is extremely slow to cache those,
It's
though.
effective. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Like, I think the most I can do is argue my friends.
The story thing, that's really good though. Like I haven't
Yeah.
thought about that in a while because when I was in high school, I'm a little older. I'm 33, right?
Wow,
So when I was in
we're
high
almost
school,
the same
I took
age. That's
German.
crazy.
Are we? Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, I'm 30.
The
actually. I
age
just
of the
turned 30.
dad,
That's
dude,
funny.
dad gamers, man. Dad gamers got the oldest average age. I swear to God,
It is.
pretty crazy.
That's pretty cool. Though. I didn't realize that we were so close together.
Hell
Kind of
yeah.
cool. Anyway,
But yeah, no, man. When the high school thing was, like, I took German, and my German teacher was she taught through stories. We had to write stories,
ooh, interesting.
and it was cool because every single thing I learned about the stories through the 2 years, I remember literally to this day without practicing German for 18, 15 years now. 16, 17 years, and I remember all of it that I remembered from learning the story stuff, and forgot all the random vocab I learned that wasn't tied to a story.
Interesting.
So
Yeah, there's this YouTuber I used to follow called Ikena, I think is what his name was. But he used to be really big on, like, you remember what you put into stories, right? And
Right.
so, yeah. Anyway, that's kind of interesting. So, kind of a little bit more on topic. So, like, since you're the original OG longsword creator, how do you feel about the responsibility about being, the OG, like one of the first guys that that that's in this position?
And so I mean, I get a lot of I get a lot of respect from a lot of different content creators in the dark and darker sphere. Actually, without really knowing very many of them, a lot of people know the name and know the attachment to the longsword in the game. Um, when it comes down to it, I don't play the game very competitively. I never have. I wanted to make tutorials and teach people. I want to play have fun because at the time I was just working way too much and suffering, and Dark and Darker was the most fun thing in a long time. So I tried to embrace that concept of just being the happy-go-lucky, have fun longsword guy that's just out there playing the game, doing cool shit, teaching people how to use a weapon that's unique and has skill expression. And really, it's I don't have a lot of people that say a lot of bad things about me that I see, unless it's a random no name guy in Discord that wants to talk smack or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Which is awesome. But I'm also I have a very competitive nature that I don't, imprint on the game. I played hockey and baseball from 4 years old till 24. For both.
Oh
of them.
wow.
Yeah, super competitive, right? So, and when I get competitive, I also get very toxic in that sense because I don't like to lose, right? No one that's competitive likes to lose. So I try to balance it out by not being competitive, playing the game well, teaching well, and just having fun so that when the losses come, it's a shake it off. And it can teach other people to not be so hung up on the competitive nature of something that is, in the grand scheme of things, completely irrelevant. It's a video game. Just play it. If you want to be competitive, you can be competitive, but make sure you can, take a step back and dissociate the competitiveness with your attitude and taking it into other things. So it's
Right.
I get a lot from the community, and it's been really cool because it's not something I've experienced anywhere else before by being this OG longsword guy. So even though I think excuse me, I think Sparky Kawa, the lizard longsword bro, his channel popped off during the Steam release. He was 2,000, 3,000 subscribers behind me. We were always chatting, he was always grinding, and his channel jumped up to 3 times the size of mine now. And same with his Switch. So, and he plays the game in a very competitive way, right? He plays to be, I'm the best longsword player. I'm the best of this. I'm out here doing these solo bosses. You know what I mean? And that's just not something I could embrace. And a lot of people, especially in a looter game and the looter shooter community, like that stuff, right? Because that's why a lot of people play the game, to be competitive and to shit on people.
Right.
So, but that's not something I embrace. And I get a lot of acknowledgement from the community that is nice because I didn't push to that, and people know that, hey, Oggie's awesome. He's the OG. He'll teach you everything you need to know, and he's just going to do it and have fun, and he's not trying to pretend to be the best or anything. And a lot of people acknowledge that, and that's what I try to continue to embrace. You know what I mean?
Right. It's interesting to me that you mentioned Ranger, right? I picked up the longsword for a little bit, but I'm usually a cleric main to a longsword guy. The guy I play with
Yep.
is, he just picked up the longsword and just kind of, year-long grind to get pretty competitive with it. So, it's been an interesting journey with that. It's interesting to me that you mentioned that you pick up a longbow. So a lot of longsworders I've interviewed, like Sparky, for instance, doesn't really like to play with range. There's a little bit of a, I don't know if you want to say like code of honor, or but like a negative sentiment towards picking up range. But most of them are fine with crossbows, right? But most people don't like using. It's interesting to me that you play ranger. Can you dive into that a little bit more? Like, did you try out ranger? Do you still play ranger occasionally?
So I started Ranger because literally every other game I play is always Ranger. That's how I've always been since I was a kid. Again, like I said, it's very, very ingrained in me from the characters I grew up reading books about that I enjoyed. That it just kind of, hey, I'm going to play an RPG. Well, I'm going to make a character like this cool character. that I, love so much from this story. So in most games, I enjoy the Ranger character. In this game, I haven't played Ranger in a while. I played Ranger during multiclass. I love the skill expression that Ranger has in the game. It's really, really good right now. I was supposed to this week do a Ranger character playthrough on the Twitch chat, with Twitch chat, I mean, on Twitch while I'm streaming, and I didn't get to it because I had the flu, and then I got a viral pink eye, and then I settled into sinus infection, and I'm dead. So I've got to come back to life for next week. But Ranger's something that I want to dip back into because, again, I like the play style. And there is a very good way to express skill with the melee on Ranger right now through the spear, with backstep and with desync blocking, which is, well, I actually really consistent with the spear. So Ranger has a lot of skill expression in it in both the ranged gameplay, which I do enjoy because I enjoy bows and I have since I was a kid, and through the spear gameplay with the backstep, the zone control, the spacing control, and the desync blocking, which is almost like a counter, a parry and riposte feature built into the game through abusing the netcode, right? So I like Ranger a lot. I dislike range gameplay in Dark and Darker, though, overall. I don't like how there are tiny little projectiles like bolts and arrows versus large projectiles like AoE fireballs versus hit scan spells that are, 10 times easier to hit. Like, there's a definite skewed balance in the game and how easy things are to do in the game with the range combat. And with how slow the game often plays, the range combat also feels very clunky still. So I don't enjoy it very much. So I understand why the other guys don't like it that much. Personally, I avoid it when I play very often, unless I'm in a trio playing with like viewers or friends that want to, try and be kind of competitive, because right now ranged is very dominant in the game, right? But Ranger itself, very fun to play. Definitely something I'll do again. I played it during multi-class, trying to get longsword backstep, and I just ended up fully embracing playing just Ranger without taking any multi-classing things, just to use spear and backstep.
Yeah, spear to me is kind of insane. Like, it's kind of like the longsword, right? Like, if you know where, I think in the first like 2 or 3 inches of the model of the tip of your blade, it's like where it will block, right? But it goes past a certain point in the middle of the hilt, it won't hit. Is what I found. And I think it's with a spear, right? If you know where the tip of that spear is, like mentally, because like after a certain while, when you play the longsword, or you just get used to weapons that have like long reach, basically, you get a mental space of where they are. Like when you're fighting someone, even in the dark, right? You just start keeping track of it. Yeah. And so with a spear, like, man, that thing can be dirty. Because this one thing that I don't think people appreciate about this game is how tight the hitboxes are compared to other games. Like if you go play other games like CSGO, well, I mean, CSGO doesn't exist anymore, CS2 or whatever. But like, you shoot someone to the right of their hand, and the hitbox extends out like, half an inch or something. But this game is like, if you go play other games, you realize, man, the combat in Dark and Dark is actually like not that bad as I thought it was.
Yeah, they use what's it called, mesh perfect texturing or something.
Really, actually,
the Unreal Engine 5. It's literally you go into Unreal Engine 5. You have your weapons and your models, and they're labeled in an options list, and it's a click and drag down box.
What?
And it automatically will add all the polygons around the textures on the weapons in the game.
I didn't even know that was a thing. That's cool.
That's why it's so accurate, apparently. I had a couple random Unreal Engine indie game grinders message me about it, trying to figure, because I go into the desync on a lot of my videos pretty often, a few months ago, and they reached out to me to try and explain why what I thought was desync might be something else with their hit detection and rollback system. I don't know that much about it, but I do know that they use a frame perfect or a mesh perfect setting to create the accuracy on the models in the game. And that's why it's so pristine, because it is, like you said, I haven't played another game remotely as good.
Interesting. Like, It's got to be more than that because there's other Unreal games I've played where it's definitely like not as like maybe they're not Unreal 5. Maybe that's it.
Right.
But like
Yep.
I don't know. I feel like they added something into it to make it because
It
like
could have
block
been, yeah.
because like the interesting thing about when you first started playing the game, right? Like I remember like not even the blacksmith. I came in playtest 4 and 5, but like playtest 5, was when Ryan 7 days a week talked about angling, right? Like you had to
Yep.
angle your axe, like because like well, let me back up a little bit. It's like whenever you hit someone like as a barb, or like you're on the fighter end with a shield up. It was really annoying that you still get hit with an axe, but like it kind of blew my mind when he showed that video of no, actually the tip of the axe went barely past the edge of your shield, so you have to angle it up like 10 more degrees. I was like, wait, what? It's just that accurate.
It's just that accurate. Yeah.
Except for
Yeah,
the
I
part,
remember that video.
except for people, with rondelles, where if the hand goes past the front of the guard, then it's
Yeah,
feels
the
useless.
wind up frames. Yeah, their wind up frames are very forgiving on some weapons, especially thrusting
Oh
weapons.
my god, dude, those Y-hander, like, what can you speak? What Skinny Pete does with that? That man's an artist.
Yeah, Zweihander's very good. Zweihander's like one of the most skill expressive weapons in the game.
It's interesting to me that it's not taken off as much on Fighter, right? Because there's better perks. I feel like,
Honestly, it's true. Yeah, there are better perks. The issue with it is a lot of the barbs that have success, and Pete's one of them as well. Is running the crush perk on Zweihander is pretty crucial because it gives you 5 impact. Because with 4 impact, you actually get stopped with the Zweihander by a round shield, which is
Oh, interesting.
rough. If you're getting stopped by a round shield, your life is not good. So, like, I was trying to run Bardiche the other day doing the desync block thing, and even Bardiche has 5 impact power at base, which means it gets interrupted by heater shields. And I learned that even a cleric with a base of 2.6% action speed can reset after a flanged mace attack into a block and block a desync parried Bardiche attack with Adrenaline Rush up, which is 15% bonus action speed with the Bardiche, and skipping the
What?
recovery frames and skipping the block frames into an immediate attack, and the man could still recover and block the attack.
I think the flange mace is like the lowest recovery time in the game, though. To be fair,
I think it is. Yeah, I think it's at like it's either the low 800s or
that's interesting to me.
in the upper 7s.
Did you try? I feel like Shield Mastery and Counterattack would be like really good for the desync blocking with the Bardiche.
So
right? Like,
I tried.
You would think, right?
I tried both. Yep, I tried both. Counterattack procs, and it's consistent. Shield Mastery doesn't unless you
What?
time it. It's an insanely tight timing. I managed to do it twice
That's interesting.
by accident only to get the Shield Mastery to proc while also getting counterattack.
Interesting.
So I don't know. I had what's his name? Todd Father was trying to chat about it to some people, and I was like, that makes sense. I think it's kind of right. Because he was like, yeah, it's a super tight timing and it's very risky and it isn't very worth. He says, he plays sword and shield often.
Yeah, he's really good at it.
And I was like, yeah, he's very good at it for
He's
sure.
like I think he's the only person I see on YouTube that actually does, except maybe besides your boy Blinn. I don't know if you've seen him. He's
Blynn's a shield boy for sure.
Dude, I found out Blinn through he had a video back when Warlocks were still like, basically like 2/3 of every lobby, the new Rogue.
Yeah.
The new Darth Rogue, right? Because they have all the drip. But he had this video where he had like 8 weapons. Man, he had like 8 different items to hunt. It's like hunting Warlocks with a Vengeance, I think was the name of the video or something like that. But he literally had like different sets of like shoes, different shields, like he had like a windlass and like a recurve bow. He's like, I don't care if they're short range, long range. I will catch you and I will hunt you down. And he was so
Van Helsing type loadout.
He literally, I was laughing so hard as some of the Warlocks were begging, no, please. He's like, it's too late. It's time to
so
purge.
good.
He went on a purge, man. After that, I subbed.
Good. Yeah, that's so good. I love Blinn. But he's got a great attitude too. He's a good person.
Yeah.
Love that.
So like during the play test, like what were some challenges, or not even like even during the Steam release, like what were some of the challenges with like learning the longsword, right? Because it is a pretty big curve, right? Because like PvE, like you can figure out most of the mobs, but, like some of the bosses are like, I feel like have you done Warlord yet with the longsword, like High Roller Warlord?
Yeah. High roller warlord can be pretty tricky because of the explosion after you
Dude, those
block.
I hate those pools. I'll be honest. I think they're cancer.
They're very frustrating. I often play, so my optimal setup for longsword perk wise is shield mastery counterattack, barricade, and then normally weapon mastery, so I can use the bow.
Hmm.
Shield mastery and counterattack both give you 30 move speed when you block successfully, and it stacks.
So like, what's the negative
So,
move speed like when you block with the longsword? It's like negative like 100 or something. I feel like it's super high. I feel like it's super slow even with those perks.
while blocking,
Hmm.
the penalty is like, what's the penalty? I don't remember. It's been so long since I looked it up. It drops you to like a base of 212 or something.
Sheesh.
Like it's crazy blocking penalty. Um, and that's why I often run shield mastery and counterattack, and then sword mastery if I can manage it. Which not after the PDR changes. But those two are active during the riposte as well. So you block, you get the bonus move speed. If you initiate a riposte, you continue to maintain the bonus move speed through both of the ripostes. So you get that extra 60 move speed so you can reposition, chase down, and get out of that stupid little circle on Warlord pretty consistently. Even when it's a little bigger, if you leave, I think it depends on how much move speed you got. You can leave two alive if you're a gamer. I haven't succeeded leaving two alive, but you can definitely still leave one alive because the more minions you leave alive, the bigger the stupid explosion radius gets.
Oh,
It's a
really?
bit frustrating.
I actually didn't
Yeah,
know
it's a
that.
bit.
That explains a lot about like, just ignore because sometimes I would just ignore the mobs, right? That
Yeah.
explains so much. I didn't realize that. Wow.
It's cool. It's a cool. Like the boss is great, but it's a very melee centric feeling boss. So I'm not sure why they added something to counteractively like make a detriment to playing the fight in a melee sense.
Hmm.
It's a little goofy to me, but the boss fight, I think it's awesome. I love Warlord so much. Warlord is, well, it's my second favorite now because Spectral Knight is so freaking cool.
I've heard
But
I've heard a lot of the longsword players interviews. Like when Spectral Knight came out, they were like, "Oh, they made a boss for me. They do love us."
oh, dude, yep. Everybody was on it. There was so much hype in the longsword community.
Speaking of hype, so you led some community events that were pretty incredible, like the crusade against. So like when the Frost Wyvern first came out, you. It was a weird period in the game where teaming was sort of allowed because it was sort of wasn't. If you were going to go
Yep.
kill the Ice Wyvern, a little bit of back and forth on that from Iron Mace. But I remember watching your crusade videos. People would put on
Man.
the blue armor, and that's how you knew
Yep.
that you were one of the boys. Like
Yeah, the
12-man lobbies fighting the
Crusades.
dragon. You want to talk about how you came up with that and
It
like
was
what happened
so
there?
good. We had a lot of people in chat like, "Hey, I got to get this kill. I need this kill for the stupid wyvern. I got to kill a wyvern." I'm like, "Well, dude, no one can kill the wyvern because no one wants to go try and kill the wyvern in random lobbies. So we'll try and snipe each other. We'll just go to OCE. It's 2 in the morning there right now. There ain't no one's there. Let's go in there. We'll see if we can snipe the lobbies. We'll go crusade, longsword bro, crusade against the dragon. Put your Templar armors on, throw your bucket helmets on, and show up in ice caves." And the first two times we got like 9, we got like 12, we died. And then the next time we beat it, and once we beat it, everybody was like, "Message all your friends, get all your friends. We gotta get everybody." And we were getting like 3, 4 lobbies going with the
Oh wow!
crusades, just random Templar dudes dressed up, long swords out, some cleric bros, couple warlock bros, and everyone was just showing up. It was by far the most fun I've had playing the game because it was like an impromptu raid mode,
Dude,
which is really cool in Dark and
I
Darker.
feel like raids are needed in this game because like I don't want to interrupt your story, but like
It's okay.
the Crusades, I think we joined with one of Sparky's groups. Like like you went offline and he kind of came online type of thing. And
Yep.
so, but the first time that you see an entire lobby going and like like charging, it's like that scene from The Lord of the Rings, right? Where it's like Aragorn, the close up of Aragorn, he's like for Frodo, and all the little
Yeah.
guys charge into the giant orc army. Kind of a moment. It's like 4 guys might die, but the one cleric is healing other people, trying to keep other people alive. That was like kind of incredible. Like even that Repose video that he did, right? I think he did like world first. They got that guy who is I think a longsword follower of yours, right? And they like carried him through. That whole thing was kind of like a movie almost, right? That was
It
pretty
was pretty
cool.
good. Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
also,
no,
oh, sorry, good.
the raid mode, like you said, I feel like raid mode it would go a long way towards a lot of good vibes in the community too, I think. Which I think we're kind of lacking. There's a lot of doomer speech out there right now with the game, so I feel like stuff that could incentivize some more, positive community vibing interactions would be good, and raiding would
Right.
definitely do it.
Well, I mean, I'm not really sure what kind of direction they want to go for the game, right? It seems to kind of ping pong back and forth. I had Ryan on yesterday, and Suki,
Right?
and he was
Okay.
kind of saying he thinks that they, just based on what they said and kind of like what they did with patch 69 and stuff like that, that maybe it's more of a PvP focused game, but like nobody really knows. But
Mm.
what was it? Who's the Australian YouTuber that's makes those funny videos?
Spud Hunter.
Spud Hunter. I can never remember his name.
Yeah,
I'm so embarrassed.
Spuddy.
But like his suggestion was that like if you make PVE gear like the primary way to power scale, right? Then that's a good way to balance the game. Like around you can get more powerful, but around like killing mobs, right? So you still get a sense of power, but not like too much damage more or less against players.
Right.
And so like if we had a more dungeon focused delving activities, I think I'm not sure if that would work long term because people figure out PvE really fast because it's the fastest way
They
to make
do.
money.
Yep, they do.
But
That's true.
but having something where it's like you need 10 guys to take something down, like they've gotten a lot better with bosses. Like their boss design's gotten really good.
Oh, way better. Yeah, for sure.
But
100%.
I would love raid modes. Were you there? I think it was about a year ago. There was a bug, like when the game first came out on either Steam or Blacksmith. If you loaded into the Goblin Caves, it would spawn. It would overload the lobbies, and you could spawn inside
Oh
of each
my
other.
god, dude. I spawned inside of so many people.
It's like 20-man lobbies or something crazy like that.
It was so wild. It was so wild. I had a lot of fun during that actually. I had a lot of content that I ended up not being able to use and stuff because having to go through and try and get rid of all the crazy VoIPs and stuff because hanging out with people was pretty wild. So, but that was crazy time.
One of my favorite pieces of content that you do is the longsword tournaments. Can you kind of talk to me about like how those came about and like how you run those?
So, shoot, I don't even remember the first one at this point. It's been so long. I had a bunch of people wondering if we could hold a tournament. Like, is there a way that we could do a longsword tournament? And I was like, well, what do you guys want to do? And it was just, there was like 30 people in Twitch chat and just wondering. I was just, poking brains, seeing what people were feeling. And then I have a Discord and I was posting in the Discord. And I was like, well, what about a 1v1 longsword only kind of thing? Where no skills, no anything, just longsword versus longsword. And people really liked the idea, so we made it something like that. And eventually, it evolved into no shield mastery as well, because shield mastery adds that 50% action speed. If you get a parry with shield mastery, you're almost guaranteed to land a riposte. If you don't have shield mastery, though, it gives a lot more interaction value between you and your opponent with parry, riposte, parry the riposte into a riposte, into a parry on that riposte. And we've had some crazy change throughout, the tournaments and stuff. But it came down to, I would have like a lot of streamers. There's a lot of streamers that accept handouts. There's a lot of streamers like, yeah, can't have handouts. I'm like, I'll take handouts, whatever, dude. I'm probably not going to use them because I just don't play the game enough. Actually, I play very little compared to other content creators. And I'll donate them. And what the donating turned into was tournament rewards. So people would donate a bunch of stuff, and I'd be like, "All right, this is crazy good, dude. I can't use this. We're gonna put this in the tournament, and we're just gonna now that old Haver, a guy in the chat all the time, gave me a full Frostlight set and a full gourds. Like, well, Jesus, dude, we gotta hold a tournament in 2 weeks or next week or something. I'll go post in Discord." So whenever someone would give me something that was so good or so awesome, it was like, well, we got to give this to the community then. And I would try and throw together a tournament. And at the first couple, I had my buddy Nightshine helping me, and then he was like, "This is very, very taxing. It takes 6 hours, Oggy. I'm sitting here for 6 hours with you, doing nothing." And I'm like, "Shine, my voice is hoarse from talking for 6 hours, brother. Support me, please. Don't abandon me." And he eventually got too busy and he couldn't help anymore, and then he quit playing the game. So I'll use a tournament bracket, just a random tournament bracket site online. I don't even remember what it's called. I got it bookmarked somewhere. I don't use it ever, except for that. And I'll just put a little Discord post, have people sign up, and then people will see that the tournament's going, and then even more rewards flood in. You know what I mean?
Oh wow!
Like the last tournament, we handed out 2 Fulgors and 2 Frostlight sets. It's like, holy shit, dude! Yeah,
oh my
exactly.
Gosh, I gotta join, man.
So like. And the last one was pretty good because it was during multi-classing, which everyone hated, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I had everyone roll Ranger for backstep. So we had a longsword duel with backstep for every competitor.
How did that work
and
out with backstep? Because
it was fun, man.
I feel like there's a lot you could do, especially if you like get a riposte off of a mob, because you can kind of like half turn around, half like flick and skirt. Like
there's a lot of skill expression with backstep on longsword, just like kind of with spear. Like you can do some crazy stuff with it. It was really cool. And I mean, there was a lot of crazy anime moments with people double backstepping away from each other, double backstepping into each other, last second hits that won fights and stuff. Like it ended up being super fun, man. Like it ended up being fun enough. I'm like, damn, every melee weapon needs backstep built into it at this point. That would be a game changer.
Do you think that would be a little bit strong, like a little bit, like maybe too overpowered on like Rogue or like Barb or like other classes, right?
It would. I couldn't imagine Bardish having a backstep. It would be wildly strong. And then Rapier Rogues would never be touched. It would be so good.
Yeah, like
and Rapier's not even that good right now. But Repose would never die in melee. Yeah, people that have really good zone control spacing would never die. So that's why I also kind of let that fall off. I was like, oh, there's no way I can push this. This would be crazy. Because, I mean, you see it now as you play 9 out of 10 Rangers have backstep right now.
I feel like they have backstep and shotgun. Reason. And I've been killing arena so many times. Dude, like shotgun with longbow is so overtuned with high-end gear. It's you can be 65 PDR and get one shot.
Absolutely can. 20%, 100% scaling on each arrow. Yep. Eesh. So... But yeah, no, the tournaments are just wildly good time all the time. They do take a lot of effort. They take a full day, 6 to 8 hours, depending on how many people show up, and it's exhausting. And the videos don't do well. So editing them takes a lot of work too. So because the channel is pretty small still, so I don't see a lot of value out of the channel. It's more for the community than anything else still at this point.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if you had like an editor or anything like that, or if you just did it all yourself.
No, I could. I had a couple people reach out to me about doing editor stuff, and I'm like, guys, what you want from me would be 3 times what I make in a month to actually have you do the editing on the cheapest end. It's like, I appreciate it, but there's no way I can justify it. Like, it might help the channel grow, but I don't have the funds to invest into it. While my wife and I are pursuing other things with the funds that I would invest into it by getting an editor.
Right, that makes sense. You have other priorities in life, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. This eventually, like I said, I'm going back to school again. This will probably turn into a full send hobby angle where I stream and make a video once a week or something. And that's just, unless it pops off, which it doesn't look like it's going to do, it's just going to be, something for fun, which is okay because that's what I've pursued the entire time while doing it anyways. I was making sure it was for fun and helping people. So it's all good, right?
Right. So, have you ever had any like rivals or like any other like maybe longsword rivals in your Dark and Darker journey? What would you say, like in game or antagonist maybe?
No, I mean I have an open stream snipe policy when I stream. Anyone that wants to try and duel me can try and find me. If they find me, I will fight them every time.
You ever had any
just
memorable
for fun
duels?
Many, yeah, a lot of fun ones with a lot of repeat customers. So,
what's one of your most memorable ones?
The absolute best duel I ever had was against Sparky Kawa. We were queued up at the very last match of the wipe. I got on. I seen the wipe was happening. I was like, "Oh, someone donated this Fulgore kit that they made me run, and I didn't get enough clips of it. I might as well go try and get one more." You know, I'm in between my day shift right now. I'm a nanny. I work in the morning and in the evening. So I got up. I got on. I ran one match. In that one match, I ran into Sparky.
Oh wow!
And Sparky's in a crazy good kit with Fulgore.
Oh my!
And I'm in a crazy good kit with Fulgore. And we had a fucking longsword Fulgore duel at the 11th hour of the wipe. And it was so fucking good. It was so good.
Who won that fight?
I won that fight because I have a helmet.
Okay, to be fair, I've actually watched the video like a dozen times, and I could not believe that you both survived like triple reposts off of a freaking
so much damage.
You guys must have had like 200 HP, man.
We did so much damage to each other.
I think he would have won that if he had a helmet. Like he would have survived that.
If he had a helmet, for sure. The stats that helmet provides, he probably would have survived the last hit, I think.
If you watch from his perspective, he's like, it's so close. Man, it's so close. Like even without the helmet. But
yeah, it was such a good fight. And it was just the atmosphere of what happened, like the timing and everything was like, oh my goodness, this is so perfect. And that's the only time Sparky and I have ran into each other playing with long swords.
Oh wow!
He killed me one other time. He was playing Bard. He had a bunch of random. He had a garage cell equipped, and I was running around naked with boots on. And I was just sitting there waiting for someone to come duel me. I was in the module. I forget what it's called. The name of the module. It's the module with the little. It's got the two guardians in the middle room with the two doors. It's got the 3 archers that walk around and the mage.
Oh yeah. I know.
I just had torches thrown down in the open there, just waiting for someone to come through because I was butt naked and didn't have a reason to leave the raid. And it ended up being Sparky that ran through me and killed me. It's pretty funny.
That is funny.
But yeah, I've never fought any of the other. I don't know if you know H2. H2 was another smaller longsword creator in the past. He quit playing the game because of the range meta. But I had a few fights with him and his friends because his group would often run off meta like mine did. During the play tests, we would play Barb Fighter Cleric, and we would get stomped often by anyone with a wizard consistently. It was frustrating. And then H2's team would often do something similar, running Fighter Cleric Rogue. So whenever we fought him and his friends, it was always a fun fight because it was off meta versus off meta. There's a lot more melee fighting and clutch heals by the 2 clerics. You know what I mean? So. Excuse me.
You're good.
But no, man, I actually haven't had very many duels with very many content creators. You know, we've killed Ken Kenobi a few times, running him over with some goofy stuff.
Good.
I know, right? When you kill him, it feels good. But I had a fight with Skinny Pete. Playtest 4.
How did that go?
So I was solo in duos. I was naked. I had pants on and a green longsword. He had killed a Slayer fighter. He found me. He recognized my voice, so I was yelling about fighting. I was yelling, "Hey, fight me, please, fight me!" And he's like, "Oh, it's Oggie!" It was hilarious. His voice was so excited. It's before he started doing his content stuff.
Oh wow!
And yeah, and he's like, "All right, we gotta have a duel, but you're in rags. You look like an orphan." So he gave me the Slayer Fighter kit, which was not very good, especially for longsword. But I put on the Slayer Fighter kit and then had a duel with him while he had this Viander. And it went pretty poorly for me because, let me tell you, Slayer Fighter kit ain't going to do much against Barbarian. But he played it. He's Skinny Pete. He played it well, of course, too. So let's not take anything from him. But that was my first interaction with Skinny Pete, actually. I made a video. I don't know if I made an individual video or snuck it into another video, I think. Because it was one of the coolest interactions I had. He was like, "You look like an orphan." I was like, "Oh my god, you're right."
That's kind of funny. So our group actually fought you. It was me, Sonder. You probably don't even remember. You fought so many people, but it was when you and Nightshine were still playing with. I don't remember your third. I think you were playing.
Radio, probably.
Yeah. There's a ranger, but we were in that room with the 2 stairs that come up, in like little small towers. There's like the archers, and
Yeah.
I was the ruby silver cleric that like my longsword fighter lost to you, which is fair, and I was the unkillable cleric. And I remember Nightshade screaming, "Why won't you die?" And I was like, Max PDR,
That's a very nice shine sounding thing.
Yeah, he just whacking me with the short sword like this dude won't die. But that was
That's
our
funny,
yeah.
man.
So part of our character lore, like I said, so my longsworder, has had sort of a crazy arc, and he what he's done in game is sort of the inspiration for why I'm doing this project. But the long and short of it was, like you're a big part of his like lore, right? Like part of his training arc, if you will. So like when we first picked up the game, one of our first big battles in like I think it was HR, or normal. I don't really remember. It was like, oh, we fought Oggieson and we like lived more than 5 seconds. This is like pretty hyped, right? Because you have a reputation of being like the god of the, like the grandmaster knight of the longsword, right?
Right.
A little maybe a little grandiose, but in our mind, it's pretty true. And so then he goes on this really long training arc in season one when the game first came out, right? And he he starts fighting HR, learning how to do PvP with the longsword, kind of like Sparky there. And so he gets like a Nippelon for our Ranger main. He gets a full gore kit. Like me and him are both learning how to trade, and I trade up to a like pulverizing prayer and Aegis, right? Just sitting in my
Hell yeah,
inventory.
hell yeah.
So like, here's the crazy thing though. Like, so him and my Ranger main back then were going into HR to like just learn how to do PvP, and they were like wiping lobbies left and right. So I'm cooking one day, just have my tablet out, watching them stream and play. They're getting really good because I'm a cleric. All I have to do is make sure I hit the longsword, and then we win, right?
Hell yeah.
And they both get permabanned, like out of nowhere. It says for cheating. I was like, wait.
Playing too well.
Well, here's the crazy thing. So, like this is we didn't get to run any of our artifacts. We all grinded to demigod, and then 2/3 of my squad just gets sniped from the game, basically, right? And so, they're obviously mad for a couple of weeks because, like as far as I'm aware, like these guys actually, like aren't cheating, right? Like help make one, like I helped configure one of the guy's computers, and he's not the kind of guy that would do that.
Not savvy enough.
Well, I just assumed that he wouldn't do that, right? But anyway, so
Gotcha.
the
The
crazy,
vibe. Yep.
the crazy part is 6 months later, Grayson actually ends up unbanning them, right? And so, it was like what it was he had a jump macro on his mouse for like when we first started playing, like first started playing the game because he couldn't figure out how to jump over barrels. And so, like literally, like first started playing the game and it came back out on Blacksmith, but he's like, yeah, it shouldn't have been a permaban.
That's funny,
it should
dude.
have been
A temp ban for any. Yeah,
temp,
it could
right.
have been a warning. Stop using macros. Put a big old like a loading screen of, hey, turn off your macros or you'll get banned.
Right. But I guess they were having a big problem with cheaters back then. They're short staffed.
It was massive.
The crazy part was he made. I got him a second account so he'd keep playing, and so right when the part where he got banned, right, like they were about to go run these crazy kits, like we fought you, like we were, getting really into the groove of it to learn, he learned how to do Ghost King solo, Lich solo, and he was just learning the Warlord, right? That was like his next arc. So he spent this is around when Sparky started doing the Warlord, his Warlord arc, right, where he beat it with every character. And then I think Mad Robot was the first guy who beat HR Warlord with like gray gear. Like all great.
He had like Squire Kit stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's also another aspect of this game that was really interesting to me was that yes, people had beaten HR Warlord, but no one had figured out how to do it in great. It's always like I beat him with a viola or whatever. It's like, okay, whatever, buddy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like with 3 people. There's not a consistent solo way to do it for the community, which is extremely rare for a game like this. Like 6 months to figure that out. That's insane. Right?
Yeah, it went a while. A lot of people, a lot of the streamers, especially the upper echelon of streamers, would just
skip them.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not worth accidentally screwing things up. It's too wonky, But the people that grinded it and understood it and can manipulate it properly and play the game well ended up, Mads pretty that kid's fucking wild at this game. He's great. So
Yeah.
it's not surprising that he managed it.
Yeah, so my longsword buddy basically became friends with him because he figured it out. And so, it took like 30, 40 deaths later, right? Like to get
Yep.
Warlord to be able to solo him consistently, like HR, is hard because it's 1 out of 3 attempts. It's a massive time sink. It's like a 90-hour time sink,
Oh,
right?
dude, it is so frustrating to try it. I remember doing it back in February, and it was like, oh, I'm done. No way. I tried it solo 3 times at first, and then when they finally got rid of the 3 level system again, it was like, all right, now I can go do this. Let's go learn this stupid boss because it's fun and cool.
Yeah. So Sonder eventually it's kind of interesting. I think Warlord is the only one that drops full gore, which is it's like a duel,
Yep.
which is kind of cool. But the day he got, I think very close to the day that he figured out how to beat Warlord consistently HR, he got like a full gore drop from his second beat of it, and then he got unbanned, like his original account. And so this is like season 3, so he grinds back Demon God on that, and like he comes back with his original name, and he's got all his skill right. So it's like this. He was disgraced from the Fighters Guild, persevered under a new name, and now is like he beat the Demon General, and now he's back with the Vengeance Baby, and all the boys are back. It was kind of a crazy story, right?
That's pretty great, actually. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
pretty great. I like that.
and it's part of his training arc. Like he found you in the Goblin Caves once or twice, and 1v1'd you, and he actually beat you. I'm pretty sure they had like a clip from that. So that was like he beat his former master type of deal, and so it was just kind of
Love it.
really cool. Anyway, I've been yapping way too
Love
long.
it.
Let's get back to the
You're all
topic.
right. Having fun.
Yeah. So have you? What would you say is like one of your like favorite and secondary weapons from longsword if you like couldn't use it?
Bardish, 100%. Yeah, I like Bardish a lot. I wish it was an innate fighter weapon. It's so frustrating. It's not an innate fighter weapon, but I don't know. I got a soft spot for poleaxes. I guess I'm not sure why. I don't know where it comes from or why I have it, but I really like the weapon in the game. And especially with the desync blocking, it has a cool way to express skill with the weapon as well that most people using it don't do, because most people outside of fighter chat know about desync blocking or perfect blocking. Some people might know it from the playtest era when people first figured it out. So,
I didn't realize.
but
People figured out that far
Bardish, I
back
like
then.
Bardish a lot. Yeah, dude. Yeah, there's a few. So,
All right, let's switch over to some of the more player lore things. So, like, what would you say that your character is in the Dark and Darker world? Like, would you be like the leader of like the Fighters Guild? Like, would you be like, kind of like a Templar Knight that leads crusades against the darkness? I kind of feel like that would maybe align with how you play the game.
so hey, I don't disagree with either of those actually. The way I play the game is definitely very aligned with that. My attitude towards the game and towards the way I pursue things in the game is very laid back and nonchalant, though. I think I don't go after grinding the artifacts or doing this boss stuff or yada yada. It's more, I want to go find cool people and have fun, engaging combat. You know what I mean? I run around yelling glorious combat in VoIP all the time, right? So, and I don't know. I feel like I'm more of a, as much as I am the OG longsword dude. I feel like the way I approach the game, I'm more of one of those semi overpowered background characters. Is what I feel like I am. I'm the guy that it's what's Oggy doing? I don't know. He's in gray gear again without no pants, and he just killed 6 people. Why? I don't know. He's yelling madness and glorious combat. Run. Type deal, and I do. I feel like the way I approach the game, especially, I feel like should be probably included in that. It's help others be better, and I'm not much of a braggart. I'm a little humble. I feel like when it comes to that, I don't try and talk down to people, and I don't try to talk myself up too much in the game or in the community even. So. I feel like I'm the background quartermaster that's sneakily overpowered and might save you in the run filler episode.
You're also kind of famous for carrying windlass.
Oh my god, I love
Dude.
Windless so much.
I'm not gonna lie. Okay, I was a little sad when they changed it recently, where if you have a bow weapon in your inventory, it unloads it, right?
Yeah, I was
I,
heartbroken.
I listen. So my longsworder, it's when warlocks were prevalent, it was a little tough, even in low roller. Right? They were just so good.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I'll admit it. I carried. I would play fighter, but I'd play like Slayer or something else. But I would basically play with 5 windlasses and carry just enough. You can carry just a row of meds, and
Yep.
if you carry 5 windlasses, and let me tell you what, those warlocks were a little less arrogant after having. I think there's an element of fear after you pull out the fourth windlass. They
The hot
don't
swap
know.
windlass.
Yeah, after you fire 4 of them, they don't know how many more you have, or because we'll dress the same type of squire kit. You know,
Yep.
my longsword has a bit more honor, so it has a normal crossbow, but I think it causes a little bit of fear after the fourth one. You know what I mean? Like they
How,
might not be
how many
so arrogant.
how many rocket launchers you got? Stop it. I
Yeah,
could definitely see that fear. Yeah, the windlass, man. I
I
love the
love it.
windlass. I remember in playtest 3, I discovered that you could collateral with it. I had no idea. And I accidentally killed 2 people with a shot, 2 double headshot shot across the pyramid room. And I'm like, oh my God, you can collateral with it. Let's go.
It's an op.
It's so good. It is an op, too. It's so good. Yeah, I love the windlass.
I remember one time we did triple windlass range. Like we went naked into HR with like triple, like triple ranger all crossbow perks with windlasses, and we felt like like the old British musketeers. Where like like a row of people would shoot, and then the other people would like reload behind them, and the other people would shoot. So we'd take turns shooting out of a door with crossbow perks, and that was kind of funny because we would kill. We got lucky a couple times and killed really geared people with
Yep, I
PDR does
believe it.
not matter when you have a windlass with no drop from across
Yep.
the room. It's so stupid. But
Yeah, that sounds like a good time. That's fun sounding.
do you remember the what is it? It's the room with the house shrine. It's in I think it's like 4 corners, but
Yep.
it's the one where you can get on top of the room with the chandelier.
With the chandelier,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
little
yeah.
the little wood ledge.
Yeah. So you can actually walk on the walls there still if you do it right.
Shit.
And and
Actually, I didn't know that.
yeah. So like we would drink early on. We would drink like invis pots there, and we'd wait for people because it used to be when the storm came around. If you got lucky, like that room would be a PvP center, and
Oh
so
yeah.
you could put traps under bodies. And we play triple rangers, and we get all these juiced guys, just invisible windlasses in the dark. Oh man. Anyway, I should quit saying how much of a scumbag I am. So like, what would you say like would motivate you? Like, what motivates your character to like continue to go into the dungeon, like in the world of Dark and Darker? Like, what are you motivated by?
I think it's interactions with new players actually. Like when I play the game personally now, if I'm playing solo, I always have VoIP on. I'm always talking to everyone I find. And there'll be occasions where like I last wipe I played a match in ice caves. I was solo and duos, and I ran into a duo. They were a wizard and a fighter, and the wizard didn't know how to equip spells. He didn't know that he needed a spell wheel. He didn't know what the book did. He had the magic staff. He had no idea. But I met him in the first module I moved to, right, and found him, and they followed me, asking me questions in VoIP along the way, and I just went through and killed 9 people. And chat was like, so you just gave these brand new players a tutorial of ice caves, taught them how to play their classes in the entire game. They got to meet the longsword final boss, watch him wipe an entire lobby, and then get to add him as a friend afterwards. And it was like one of the coolest interactions I've had because they followed me the whole time. They asked questions the whole time. I got to teach them about, ice caves and what their classes are doing and how they can be doing things better and why they can't cast spells because old boy has intense focus and the shield on. And it's like, oh, yeah, you need a spell wheel, brother, and a book. You should use the book. Don't use that staff. But the most fun I have in the game is interacting with other people. That's why I go into the dungeon and play the game. I go in and I VoIP And if I find friendly people or cool people, maybe we have a cool fight. Maybe we just exist. Maybe we have a longsword duel. His cleric buddy revives him, and then we go kill Lich as a 4-piece in duos.
Oh, wow.
Because I've done that twice in duos and once in trios, where I'd met someone that recognized me, had a duel. We revived each other, depending on who lost. We got the revive off with the teammates. And then we would go down to Inferno and do the boss fights. And then one of the times we went down, did the boss fight, had 2 more duels, killed the two boys that killed the boss with me, and then evac with their longswords just to keep them in my stash for a day or two in honor of that type deal. But I feel like going in and teaching people is really what I'm about still. Interacting with people and trying to help them survive in the dungeon is what I really care about more than anything.
Interesting. So, is your character's longsword like a weapon that they've always carried, or does it have a specific origin, like in their journey?
No, I feel like it's just I run around. I say all the time, gray longsword's all you need. I say it all the time to everyone in chat, in Discord, in random voice calls. Like, Oggie, you get something better for arena yet? You got a divine blade still. It's like, hey, you want me to switch? I'll go get the gray one. It's all you need. It's just the first longsword you picked up is all you need, as long as you can use it properly.
Interesting. What do you think your character, like in lore, would view Fulgore as?
Something out of his reach, for sure. Something like, ooh, that's something someone besides me should be using. Like I said, I view myself and the way I approach the game as a side character. Side character shouldn't have Fulgore. You know what I mean? That's the hero sword type deal is what it feels like. I would say it's like the hero's weapon, because honestly, if you look at all the other artifacts in the game, Fulgore might be the coolest weapon in the game.
Oh, I agree.
So
it's funny. Sparky, I asked Sparky something similar, like what he would do with Fulgore, how he would change it, and he said he'd make it do chain lightning. Because on repost it does the same amount of damage, so you're better off left clicking as opposed to reposting.
Yep. If your repost hits and does a chain lightning, that would be a cool idea.
Might kill you though.
That's all right. It's worth. Let me burn this 200,000 gold Fulgore, but I chain lightning myself and 2 others.
Hey, I wiped the lobby, including myself.
Yep.
Interesting. So, how would you say that your character, like in lore perspective, has changed from the early days till now? Like, have their motivations or demeanor evolved or changed?
Yeah, it was definitely because playing in the playtests, we were a lot more competitive playing in the trio. The boys wanted, grind. Let's go do all these bosses. Let's go dungeon dive. Let's go fight people. Let's go kill this. Let's go achieve awesomeness and make a name for ourselves. And well, Lord knows I don't do that anymore. I jump into the game and I'll do random runs with random players from chat to try and help them find success and get some, some comeuppance for themselves type deal. So my character went from, pursuing it to helping others find a way to pursue it. You know what I mean? That kind of glory, I guess, because I really don't do it anymore.
I gotcha. What's something about the longsword that you would change?
Honestly, I hate the first thrust attack a lot because you can't accelerate it. It is a locked-in 230 millisecond attack, and you can do nothing about it. And because of the way the animation works, the attack frames start while the weapon's still behind you. The pommel has a hitbox, so the pommel can hit doors, walls, lamps, windows, axe traps, everything. Other teammates, other enemies, and it can interrupt attacks all the time. I would love if the longswords maybe had 2 slash attacks and then a 3rd thrust rather than the way it is now.
So kind of like those Y-handed,
thrust
right?
and 2 slash attacks. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize how impactful being able to accelerate a weapon is with your first attack, because you are locked in with longsword. You either have a decent amount of action speed or your first attack is very, very slow. Right? So, and
Right.
it does It does. It has 230 milliseconds of attack frames. It's one of the slowest. Like Bardiche is Bardiche and Halberd have a faster 1-2 attack than Longsword, and Zweihander's 1-2 attack is only 10 milliseconds slower, and they are wildly stronger in the damage number. You know what I mean? So I would like to see it change so that the Longsword has a little bit of a quicker first attack that can be accelerated. I think would go a long way towards having more skill expression on the weapon. There's a lot I would do in game sense to really balance it. I think it's a very unrewarding weapon for a lot of people because of the damage multiplier on riposte. So it's unrewarding to play against, and because of the attack pattern and the lack of on-hit slow at 17%, it's very unrewarding to play as in a lot of cases. So if it's unrewarding on both ends of the spectrum for what the weapon is doing, I feel like they should adjust it.
Interesting. How would you describe your character's relationship with this longsword? Like, is it a tool, an extension of your body, like in lore, or like maybe an extension of like their identity, a sacred weapon to be used?
It is very much just it's a tool that it's a tool that is an extension of your body at this point. It was a tool, right? And now it's so natural to you that it just exists as part of your. This is you. You're not you without the long sword, honestly. But it's nothing special. You can use another weapon if you don't have the long sword if you need it. But you're not going to be you're not going to be as effective for sure because you don't have the second nature of using it forever. You know what I mean?
I gotcha. What's your current view of what Dark and Darker story is? Like, walk me through that, or have you never thought about that?
Dark and Dark, man, I thought Dark and Darker was going to be like a cool adventure type game with you go in and you might find people that are of a. Yeah, I thought it was going to go towards a direction where there was factions. If you found people of your own faction, you would then participate together in the dungeon to find success and making money or something. And you go down and you try and do your quests and you rank up an adventurer rank or something because they had all that stuff about being adventurers and adventurers going on adventuring nonsense. And there's the adventurer camp starting spot that we don't have anymore with the the pre-lobby.
Mm-hmm.
And really what we are is a bunch of bloodthirsty murder bandits. Everybody that goes in just wants to fight and kill each other 9 times out of 10. And it feels very not what I thought the game was going to be.
I feel like that's more of an end of wipe issue where there's like nothing else to do.
That is true, though. Yeah, that's a good point. That is true because it does change over the course of the wipe. There's a lot more friendly interactions at the start of wipe as people are trying to, find success in killing things and getting bosses and doing quests than it is at the end where everyone's done everything and we're just here to scrum because we're bored.
Right. I feel like that's
But
why this
still.
has gone on a little bit longer than normal, right? Like we had Gold Gear, Frost Gear, and I think Ruby Silver all come out at the same week instead of being staggered like it normally is.
Yeah, it was end game stuff all together at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does your character believe about the dungeon? Like, is it a cursed place, a divine test, or maybe something a bit more like sinister going on?
No, I mean, I never thought about that actually. I feel like it's just a quest. It's just a place that you're sent to achieve something that someone's paying you to do. Is what it feels like.
Interesting.
Yep, it's just you're like it because like I said, I thought we were adventurers. Everyone's an adventurer, and you're just going in there to do some quests that someone sent you there for. Most people don't have extra thoughts about what the place is. It's hey, go in there, do what you're supposed to do, don't die, come back, relax, and then go back in again.
Has your character uncovered any secret about the dungeon's origin or its deeper purpose during their adventures?
Nah, definitely not.
Definitely not. Worth a shot. Has your character developed any quirks or rituals over time? Like maybe praying before battle, now he has a limp or something like that?
Yeah, throw the torches before every duel. Yep. Throw the torches. You want to have a duel? You show up, you throw the torches, you light the area up so that you can have a good fight.
I gotcha. So as your character evolved to more of like, you said you started off with like a trios and now you're more like a solo. So have they evolved to more of like maybe a lone wolf after their friends have died or something kind of like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like even when I get on still and play myself, like I'll get on and say, all right, we're doing viewer trios today, and I'll play by myself 1 vs 3 for 3 hours instead, because I don't want to deal with other people. And I'd rather just go in and find random Timmies and try and help them and, just have fun and experience. It is a lot more work to play with other people, to do things with other people after, not doing it for so long and playing solo and being solo. So it can be exhausting.
I gotcha. Has a longsword ever failed your character, either through like betrayal, bad luck, or maybe like a moment of hubris?
Hell yeah, dude. Yep, definitely. All the time. Desync, man. Desync. In the game, especially, like there's a lot of times where you're consistent, you trust it, you did something well, and you're 0.01 seconds off because the attacker has that advantage with the desync in the game, and you just see their blade the after image just goes right through your longsword and smacks you in the face, and then all of a sudden the fight is turned over on its head because you missed the block that you should have had, that you thought you had, that you anticipated and read with the rotation and the positioning, and you still missed it because it phases through. So
Gotcha.
I feel like for my character, there's definitely, the longsword has definitely betrayed him.
Speaking of betrayal, have you ever had to work with an enemy or maybe a rival to survive a greater threat in the dungeon, and did that work out for you in the end?
Yes, definitely. Multiple times. I remember a time when I was playing in Goblin Caves, playtest 4, I think. And I was fighting someone, and we were having a good fight, and then a warlock came out of nowhere, was causing trouble, doing nonsense warlock things, interrupting our fight, and then he ran away because we turned on him, and he recruited 2 other people by voiping that these guys are teaming, they're teaming trying to kill the lobby, and it's me and this one random barbarian just trying to have a fun fight together. And then next thing I know, me and this barbarian are 2 vs 5 throughout the map as we're chasing this warlock, and he's just recruiting random people that are also actually teamed up doing their own thing as we run across them, and we're just end up killing the whole lobby, and then we both end up taking evacs and going our own way after we started by dueling and had it interrupted.
What's the most legendary thing that your character has done in the dungeon that they would want written in history books?
We had the first kill on the Wyvern in the Crusade. So definitely the first time the Crusade was led against the Frost Wyvern, our character had the first kill on the Ice Dragon.
Well, that's just kind of epic. I'm not even going to lie. It's just kind of cool.
It was wild. It actually worked that way. Yeah.
Like I said, like this real life, this is the crazy thing is like, I think the book will have a lot more, it'd be easier to write just because like this stuff actually happened. You know what I'm saying?
There's a lot of stuff that happened, and there's so many stories. It's when you said you want to do this, I was like, oh my God, this guy's got such a cool idea. And I'm a writer, dude. I've written random short stories and I've been working on a fantasy novel for 4 years. So I'm a writer. So I was like, oh my God, he's writing a book about the game and the characters.
I didn't know that. That's actually so cool. I might actually have to have you help me out. So, are you familiar with the author called Neil Gaiman? Familiar with him at all?
Neil Gaiman?
Yeah, he wrote Sandman. Neil Gaiman.
You look him up.
Yeah, my fiance really loves him.
Okay.
So he did I looked up like writing courses. I'm a first time writer, so I don't expect the first or second draft to be really like any good, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
But he has a class, and he's like a really famous author, I guess. I don't really, I've only really gotten into heavy reading again. I read a lot as a kid, and then I started reading like again this year. Like last 5 years, I've read 3 books.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to. Yeah, I mean, life's life. You don't always have time to read.
Right, but since I've made more of an effort to start reading, so I've probably read like 30 books this year. I'm going through Brandon Sanderson's the Stormlight Archives. I don't know if you've read those. Oh my god,
Brandon Sanderson's such a good writer.
Oh my gosh, dude! Like my nephew put me on this book, and I kind of can't put it down. Anyway,
believe it.
But
Sanderson book, man.
But yeah, so Neil Gaiman has an interesting way of writing. He says essentially fiction is you're using lies to tell a story, right? And so he's like the way he's like most writers that are young, they just like write, they just do things. But he's like, I'm actually a terrible writer. I just use real people. He's like, I use truth to tell lies. So he's like, when you're writing fiction, always tell the truth. Like what, and that was kind of interesting, like a little bit of a light bulb moment for me where it's like, okay, like, I didn't really understand what he meant until like a little bit later because if you use models of real people and like what their character motivations would do, and you just put them in situations, right? Like he's like, I don't actually know what my book's going to be about. I just work out what the characters and their motivations would do, and keep, because he uses the basis for real people and real stories that happen to him. Like one that he did was super interesting was, he was writing a children's book about dragons, right? Like, how do you make
Right.
an inanimate object like kind of scary or relatable? It's a big thing that can breathe fire. It's not relatable. So he tells a story of him and his two kids were walking through the forest, and he hit an underground hive of hornets. Okay, so he tells his children to run, and he watches them go up the hill, and he had to sit there, and he got stung, I think, around 50 times, right? And
Right.
so but that's not the part that was scary for him. It was that he realized he had dropped his glasses on top of the hornets because it was underground, right? So he dropped them basically on top of the nest where he got stung. And he
Yep.
realized he had to go back, right? And so he kind of related that to, the dragon. It's not so much that the dragon was scary, it's that the dragon hurt the hero just enough to let him live, to know that if that the hero had to go back.
Yeah. I
And
like
so
that.
that was like a real fear thing, right? He like lets you live. I was like, man, that's interesting. But anyway, so like, how long have you so you've been writing this novel for like 4 years? Do you think you're like near the end of it? Like,
No, I don't have enough time, man. I just don't have enough time. I don't put enough into it properly. I write probably 3 or 4 hours a week,
wow.
which isn't enough, in my opinion. So, um, the way I approached it, since I'm not the best dialogue writer, was I wrote the exciting scenes throughout the book. Right, is what I've
Mm-hmm.
done. The climactic encounters and stuff like that. And I'm on. I think I have two more that I want to do for the book that are, the actual climax points that peter off into the end of the book. And then in between that, I have to then world build. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Through character dialogue is what I want to do. Characters encountering each other, interacting with the main character, with the side characters. And I want to try and tie in some future characters as minor occurrence background characters. One of the things I loved about the Wheel of Time books, Robert Jordan's first book, there were so many of the main characters that end up being prevalent 15 books later in one chapter of his book, his first
Huh.
book. And I love that concept, that impactful side character. So I'm currently I'm going to finish writing my two more my real climax more or less, and then I got to go back in and flesh out the world with dialogue and character discovery, I guess.
Yeah, I'll definitely look forward to that. This process has been a bit daunting for me,
I believe it.
but let's get a little bit back to the last couple questions I have. Let's see. Has your character ever made a major mistake or misstep that they've spent time like maybe trying to redeem themselves for, or like a hard moral dilemma, or both, honestly?
The only time that I've did that or anything remotely like that is throwing a fight when I was playing trios with the boys. Um, Losing fights and then playing in the background and grinding out gear sets for the boys so we could keep playing the next day
Hmm.
when they didn't have time, stuff like that. You know, losing losing Nightshine his legendary horseman's axe that he was very excited about getting, because back then in the playtest we had trade chat,
Oh man,
and
ugh,
my god, trade chat was insufferable for people that didn't have time.
that's true. I actually had on Lord Collector as an interviewee. So if you don't know, he runs the Artifact
Collector's
Discord.
Guild. Yeah.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. He's kind of
Yeah,
like the
he's a
hidden
character,
merchant
man.
king of Dark and Darker,
Yep.
you know?
He's a character, man. He's got a unique personality. He's a fun dude, but he's a little crazy.
Yeah, he knows a lot about trading and economics and game design.
Yep.
Let's see
Yep.
here.
Very hyper specific knowledge base.
I actually like trading. I actually worked my way up to an artifact at one point just through trading, like flipping items and stuff, and that was
Oh yeah.
fun. But like, I don't know if I'd do that again. If your character could give a piece of wisdom or advice for future adventures starting out, what would that be?
Do what's fun so you enjoy it and you stick around longer. If something's enjoyable, you'll want to learn more about it. As you learn more about it, you'll get better with it. As you get better with it, you can be competitive against other people and find more success. And through that success, you will also continue to enjoy the thing that you enjoyed at the start.
I gotcha. I have like one or two more questions, then we'll kind of call it here. My bladder's
No worries.
killing me. Um, what would your character want through? How would your character want to build their legacy in order to be remembered?
Teacher. Just someone that helps people learn to achieve through their own will and power. That's really what I like. I like teaching and I like helping people improve. So that's really what I would be about if I could be.
Okay, cool. Well, that's pretty much all the questions I had. I do have a little bit of a surprise one though. I don't know how you're gonna react to it, but I really like your voice. You know, you mentioned you don't have much time, but I've been pretty much thinking of this since I started the project. Would you be open to the idea of maybe reading the first chapter or
Yeah, that'd be cool.
narrating the book?
Yep, that'd be cool. I've literally floated the idea to my wife a few times about maybe trying to get into reading audiobooks as a side hustle. And she tells me I should because so many people seem to like my voice so much. So
Right.
I would love to do that. It'd be cool.
That'd be awesome. I don't want to set it up where like you're compensated for your time. Obviously, like I don't
course, yeah.
I don't intend to make this like a massive project, but a little bit of the reason I'm interviewing content creators is like they're all thematically a little bit different people who I've had on, but
Right.
it makes for easy marketing a little bit. There was a little bit of thought that went into that.
I like it, dude. You're good.
Yeah, that's really kind of hype, actually. Like some people wouldn't want to do like a full. I've actually done an audiobook for a couple of projects, and it's like kind of time consuming on your voice as well. So like I would
Right.
completely understand if you got into it and you're like, oh, this is like too much work. Would you be open to maybe the idea of, uh, you know, I'd want to get notarized and stuff, obviously, of like AI voice cloning has gotten really good. Would you be open to that for this project? For me,
Yeah,
like
if we
using your
had to.
voice? Okay, cool.
Yeah, if we had to, I wouldn't mind. It's all good.
Okay,
I'll try and do it for you personally because I think it's a cool experience. Like I said, I love your idea, and I'm very supportive of people writing. I try and get everyone that I know to get into writing. So
it's a weird
it's
headspace because it forces you to sit down with stuff and you write out like 5,000 6,000 words and you realize, oh, that was terrible.
yep.
And
And
it's
then
like,
sometimes you'll read through or you'll be in the midst of that and you'll be like, I've been writing so poorly for an hour and a half, and you're right, for 15 more minutes, and then you'll have epiphany and write something fantastic.
that's the part
Then
I
you
hate
can go
about
back and
this.
fix everything.
Is it's like 50-50, right? Because I don't really know
Yep.
like what I don't really know like what I want from something, and then you'll write it and be like, I should have just used Chat GPT or something to like figure I didn't want that. You know what I mean? Because
Yep.
part of me didn't really want to use it because there's a bit of stigma with that, right? Like, oh, a bot wrote it. You know what I mean? It's like, okay,
Yep.
well, should probably like do the first one manually at least. And it's such a time consuming process.
It is a lot of work writing an actual anything that the narrative story, or even when you have the basis of an idea for a character, it can be daunting. So I
Right.
understand.
I did some experimentation with ChatGPT a little bit. Like, if you give it like exactly what you want, it's actually like not terrible. One of the things that Neil Gaiman said you should do as a first time writer is take a common fairy tale and look at it through a different lens. And so Snow White, right? If you think about Snow White, it's actually kind of kind of creepy, right? Because like you have this princess that is essentially immortal, right? She sits in this coffin, this glass coffin for a year, doesn't degrade, right? Like
Yep.
what kind of person doesn't decay like that? And what kind of a guy, would come by on a horse and just
Walks up and is like, "Oh, I want to kiss that person."
right? So you
You're
have
like,
a vampire princess and a necrophilic prince, and in that context, it's not the grandmother, it's the aunt, right, or whatever. She's the good guy in the story because she tried to kill the immortal vampire princess.
yeah, right. You don't think immortal vampire princesses are good people very often. So
No, so you know what I mean. So I did that with Pooh Bear because I think it's just funny to like, I don't know if you saw that. There's somebody did like a spoof horror film where it's like slasher but with Pooh Bear. I've not seen it, but I thought that was kind of funny to maybe
oh
do
my
something like
god.
with Cthulhu. So I actually did write I got like 30 chapters into it. But like what happens when Piglet, because it's open source now, not open source, it's public domain now, right? Like the original Pooh Bear
Right.
characters.
Yep.
So what happened? So if you think about the story of Christopher Robin, right? He comes in and out of this book. Like I don't know if you've read or seen the movie Ink Spell, but basically the premise of that book is people can go in and out of can go in and out of books, right?
Okay.
Like they're actually like little miniature worlds. So the implied implication is that when somebody writes something, it makes another universe, right? And so those books are like pocket dimensions of writers. And if you have the ability, you can speak things out of them or go into them, right? So in Christopher,
cool.
like in examining a popular fable, Christopher Robin comes in and out of the story frequently. Like he's just not there. It's assumed that he is off at school somewhere, but like we know for a fact it's in a book. So it's this little pocket dimension. It's like
Yep.
so the last chapter of Christopher Robin's, like what happens when he doesn't come back and the story continues, and what happens when Piglet, is sick and tired of being the weak character and decides to become strong. Does that threaten other people? Right? And so
Right.
I have a little bit of a Cthulhu thing in there where he goes and starts adventuring around the 100-acre woods and kind of goes on this journey of self-discovery because he's afraid of his own shadow. And he meets these heffalumps and woozles that are outside of the 100-acre wood, right? Because the story doesn't talk about them at all. Like what happens when untalked about characters do their own thing and they evolve? And, this whole like cult thing with worshiping the old ones, and eventually Piglet becomes this strong, fearless leader of these like, forgotten about people by the author.
Right.
And so he becomes the leader of the underdogs of the heffalumps and woozles, which have been ignored by the 100-acre wood because the author never included them. So what happens when you have tension? You basically have people that are underappreciated or vilified by the characters of the 100-acre woods, and there's conflict. That's interesting.
That is very unique.
Yeah. Eventually, I went crazy with it. Piglet's doing like sacrifices to the old one, and Pooh Bear's got to go because he's the anchor character, and Christopher Robin has to come in and save the story. And now he's old, right? He's like, he got a beard. He's in college. He's like 30 now. He's a little fat. He's got a beer belly.
What is happening in my book?
The
What did you
character.
guys do while I was gone?
He picks up the book and gets sucked into it because he forgot about it as a kid, right? So
Yep.
he's like stuck there.
Oh my god, so much has happened since I've been gone.
Yeah, now Christopher Robin's old and has a beer belly, and like people like he's kind of not a great person, like he
It's quality.
yeah, because it's like what happens when you just let the story continue? But it's public domain, so
Right.
But anyway, all right, man. I really appreciate you coming on here. I look forward to working with you on this, and hopefully I can get a first draft done by at least the middle of December. But it's a little bit difficult with the holidays.
I understand, dude. I'll be slammed myself, so I'm so far behind. I left town for Japan, and then I came back, and I've been sick for over a week now. So, and I'm not better yet. So, I understand. You persevere. Do the
All right,
best you
man.
can.
I hope you get better. You have a good
Thanks,
one, man.
bud.